Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining for the May 2025 SBIF Rollout webinar. We are excited to have you here to talk about the SBIF areas that will be open this month and provide you with more information about what the program has to offer. We will start momentarily, but as a reminder, those that are attending the webinar today will receive a copy of the presentation via email. And if you would like to rewatch this webinar, it can be found on DPD's YouTube page. If you have any questions during the webinar, please place them in the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. We're just going to wait for a few more moments just to let everyone else in, and then we'll get started. All right. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Latanya Jones. I am the Deputy Director of the SBIF program here at Summer Corps. Welcome to May 2025 SBIF webinar. Just a few housekeeping notes. Everyone attending the webinar today will receive a copy of the presentation via email. If you would like to rewatch the presentation, the recorded webinar can be found on DPD's YouTube page. Please note, if you have any questions during the presentation, there is a Q&A section located at the bottom of your screen, and someone behind the scenes will be responding throughout the webinar, or it will be answered during the Q&A portion of this presentation. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Nora Curry with DPD for a brief introduction.
Hi, everybody. I want to repeat Latanya's thank you for joining us today. We're so happy to be here with you to talk about the SBIF program. My name again is Nora Curry. I'm the SBIF program director for the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development, or DPD. And on behalf of the city, again, I want to thank you for joining us today. The Small Business Improvement Fund, known as SBIF, provides grants on a reimbursement basis to small businesses and property owners to make permanent improvements to their property. We're excited to announce our latest improvement to the program, and that's that we are now taking applications online. Transitioning to this new application format improves our processing speed so we can all get down to work on your project faster. Up until now, we've been taking your application through a PDF format. And by taking it online, it's easier for you and it gets us the information faster, and we can start working with you much more quickly. One thing that hasn't changed as we've made improvements to the program over the years is the ample assistance available to you as a SBIF applicant. Technical assistance is a key strength of the SBIF program. When you submit your application, you will be assigned to a Summer Corps program manager. That person is there to help you. If you have questions about your application or run into any problems, such as delays with your city permits or your contractor, you should call your Summer Corps project manager immediately. They can help you resolve confusion and roadblocks, and they can also accommodate needed changes with your grant. Your local delegate agency is another great resource. They may be the local chamber of commerce or community development corporation that notified you about today's webinar. Sylvia Rusco will list their names later in the presentation, and like your SBIF project manager, delegate agencies are here to help you. They can help with the SBIF application. They can make introductions to local lenders. They can help guide you through all the required city processes. They have experience with this program. So in conclusion, we are all here to help support your application and to help your business and your neighborhoods flourish. And with that, I am happy to introduce Sylvia Orozco, the SBIF director for Summer Corps. Thanks.
Thank you, Nora, and thank you all for joining us. As Nora mentioned, my name is Sylvia Orozco. I am the program director for the Small Business Improvement Fund program. For over 19 years, I've assisted hundreds of existing businesses, landlords, and startups. The SBIF program is administered by Summer Corps. Summer Corps is a nonprofit small business lender that offers SBA loans. We administer the City of Chicago's SBIF program and the Neighborhood Opportunity Program, known as NOF. Celebrating its 25th year, SBIF is one of the longest running and most successful City of Chicago programs, helping to retain and expand small businesses in nearly every neighborhood, dispersing over $119 million in grants to over 2,100 businesses. Please be advised that this is a non-residential program. The grant cannot be used for capital or operating expenses. It is specifically for infrastructure repairs. Thanks again for joining us. We'll now begin today's presentation. Today, we will go over what is SBIF, what is the program mission, the grant parameters, and the project timeline. Getting started. Is your business or property in a SBIF district? What SBIF districts are open or on deck? What are the SBIF program rules? How do you apply? And what resources are available to help? We will have the list of the main rollout districts that are open to accepting applications, as well as a sample project, followed by SBIF facts and additional question and answer session. Launched in 1999, the City of Chicago's Small Business Improvement Fund program, known as SBIF, promotes economic development by providing small businesses and landlords with reimbursement grants for permanent building improvement costs. Residential projects are not eligible. SBIF grants use local tax increment financing, known as TIF revenue, to reimburse grantees for the pre-approved repair or rehab of their business facilities or adjacent land acquisition. SummerCore is a program administrator contracted by the Chicago Department of Planning and Development. Grant parameters. Applicant type. The property must be in a SBIF district where SBIF funds are available and is authorized to accept applications. Landlords of either commercial or industrial properties qualify for the program. Owners and operators of commercial or industrial business owners who own the property also qualify. Tenants with prior written approval from property owners, and startups may apply with the business plan. A current Chicago business license is required. Eligibility. If it is a commercial or industrial landlord, the cumulative net worth must be less than $9 million and liquidity must be less than $500,000 per individual. As a commercial tenant or owner occupant, on average, your sales must be less than $9 million or less. Industrial tenants or owner occupied applicants, they must have 200 or fewer full-time employees. All owner occupied properties are subject to both tenant and landlord requirements. Grant size. $250,000 is the maximum per industrial property. $150,000 is the maximum per commercial property that's occupied by a single owner or tenant. $250,000 is the maximum per commercial property that's occupied by multiple owners or tenants, with $75,000 being the maximum assistance per individual applicant. SBIF applications and SBIF grants are non-transferable between applicants and/or properties. Applicants who wish to apply for SBIF funds for more than one property must submit separate applications for each property. Applicants may receive one or more grants up to their maximum program assistance. Once this maximum is reached, the applicants will need to wait 3 years to reapply. Reimbursements. With commercial businesses, if your sales or net worth falls between $0 to $3 million, you qualify for 90% of eligible cost reimbursement. If your sales or net worth are between 3 to 6 million, you'd qualify for 60% reimbursement of eligible cost. And if your sales or net worth are between $6 to $9 million, you would qualify for 30% of eligible cost. All industrial projects are eligible for 50% of eligible cost. Here we have a SBIF grant calculation example. Let's say that Grace submits an application for a SBIF grant in an open district with the total eligible project cost of $100,000. She is proposing to make permanent building improvements to her existing retail shop for which she is a tenant. Grace has been in business for 5 years. Over the last 3 years, her gross sales averaged $1.5 million. Here's a breakdown of eligible costs as follows. With the total eligible project cost at $100,000, as a commercial tenant applicant with gross sales under $3 million, she qualifies for 90% reimbursement SBIF grants. The city's responsibility at 90% is $90,000, and the applicant's responsibility at 10% is $10,000. The SBIF program is a reimbursement grant, so project participants should be prepared with financing to support the costs of the permanent building improvements. Applicants are encouraged to contact their business lender or reach out to one of the lenders listed on the Summer Corps' website in a timely manner. Grantees may choose to complete their project in phases rather than covering 100% of the project cost up front. To participate, the grantees must receive an approval for the full scope of work and the phase work schedule. Construction timing will be based on necessity and contractors' recommendations. Receiving phase disbursements will be based on progress of work. Here we have an example of a phased project. So let's say that someone needs to replace their roof, they need a new HVAC system and facade renovations. Their contract price comes up to $180,000. They qualify for 90% reimbursement for a single commercial property, which maxes them out at $150,000 grants. However, this applicant does not have $180,000 readily available to complete the entire project. So in this case, we allow up to 3 disbursements. So let's say that the contractor's recommendations was to complete the roofing project first. So at a cost of $60,000, the applicant can get that work completed, submit their proof, and they would receive 90% reimbursement at $54,000. They can then use that $54,000 for the next project, which will be their HVAC system. So we can continue doing the phased projects based off of, again, the contractor's recommendations or necessities. So this would be a breakout. Once a project is complete, you can get reimbursed for that portion and then use that reimbursement to move on to the next project. So that way you don't have to have the full $180,000 readily available to you. SBIF project timeline. In stage 1, this is the applicant eligibility review stage. The applicants must complete their applications and also provide proof of site control. They're granted 20 days to submit the required documents. If deemed eligible, they will be moved to stage 2. This is the project eligibility review stage, where they are granted up to 120 days to submit any plans, bids, and specifications, and also to cure any debts to the city of Chicago. Once everything is deemed acceptable, we will present that for approval. This will be the construction project phase. Once approved by DPD, the applicants will receive a conditional commitment letter and the construction can begin. They're granted up to 10 months to complete the construction. Concurrently, the proof of permits or permit application must be submitted within 120 days of the commitment letter. 3.4, stage 3.4 is the proof of financing stage. The applicant must provide proof of funds. They will have up to 120 days following the date of the commitment letter to prove that they have at least 50% of the contract price in order to keep the application active. Once the project is complete, this will be stage 4. This is the reimbursement process. We require payment documentation that should include sworn statements, invoice, canceled checks, and waivers of lien. These should be sent over to Summer Corps for review. After a final site visit and processing of documents, the reimbursement check will be delivered in approximately 4 to 6 weeks. Unless DPD has granted an extension, The applicants who do not complete each stage within the required time limits will be disqualified and removed from the program. Getting started, is your business or property in a SBIF district? You can visit our website at summercore.com/SBIF to see if your property is in a SBIF district. Once you get to this page here, you can click on the locator tool. That locator tool is then going to take you to this page here where you can then enter the address, and it's going to give you relevant information to that specific property. So once you enter that address, it is going to give you the name of the TIF district, the rollout dates, as well as the delegate agencies in your area. So if you feel that this information that's been provided may be in error, you can always reach out to Summer Corps and we'll verify that information for you. The delegate agencies are designed to assist you, so they are available to help with submitting applications, basically able to help you throughout the entire process as well. Which SBIF districts are open or on deck? Eligible SBIF districts in Chicago span neighborhoods on the north, south, and west sides. Each month marks a new 30-day period in which SBIF districts with available funds open for applications. Notice of district openings are provided to relevant aldermen, posted on the DPD and Summer Corps websites, and included in the SBIFgram. You can visit our website for the most up-to-date list of open and on-deck districts. What are the SBIF program rules? Here we have a list of ineligible business types. Some of the businesses that do not qualify include chain and franchise businesses, places of worship, private clubs, smoke shops, cigar lounges, residential storage warehouses, liquor stores, things of these sorts of businesses that do not qualify. So if you're not sure whether or not your business falls under this category, you can always check in with us to verify. Improvement cost. Eligible improvement costs include roofing and facade, components of signs and awnings which are permanently affixed to the building, alterations or structures that are needed for ADA compliance, including railings or ramps, or if you need ADA accessible restrooms, we can also cover that as well. HVAC and other mechanical systems, plumbing and electrical work, certain project-related architectural and construction management fees that are related to the SBIF project can also be covered. Permanent interior renovations, including fixtures, and the purchase of adjacent land parcels for purposes of expansion or parking. Design requirements. Oh, I'm sorry, ineligible improvement costs. So items that we cannot cover include new construction, whether it's an addition or expansion from the ground up, any standalone minor repairs or cosmetic improvements, equipment-related expenses such as appliances, computers, and office furniture we do not cover. We are very limited on what we can cover that is somewhat equipment-related for commercial kitchens, basically commercial kitchens, restaurants, catering businesses. We can cover walk-in coolers and freezers, fire suppression systems, and exhaust hoods. So those are the only exceptions to the equipment-related expenses. Again, for restaurants, commercial kitchens, catering companies, we can cover walk-in coolers, freezers, exhaust hoods, and fire suppression systems. Planters surrounding or affixed to the building are not SBIF eligible. Outdoor dining or drinking areas, including roof decks, beer gardens, outdoor patios, balconies, awnings, porches, and decks, do not qualify. Fencing, including pergolas, trellises, arbors, privacy screens, and similar structures. Parking lot construction or repair, landscaping, and work on the interior of residential units are not SBIF eligible. Here we go with the design requirements. The applicants for commercial properties that are seeking a grant of $25,000 or greater are required to make at least one exterior improvement using at least 10% of the maximum grant amount. To receive project approval from DPD, the improvements must conform to DPD's design guidelines. Applicants are strongly advised to consult with Summer Corps and design professionals on design requirements and guidelines for drawing up plans for work. Key exterior design guidelines reviewed during the approval stage include preserving or recreating the original design and window openings when possible, incorporating permanent signage to clearly identify the business, adequate lighting, especially near entrances to welcome customers, avoiding window clutter. The windows should let in natural light and attract passerbys to the business. Other forms of security are preferred, but if necessary, only interior mounted security gates that are integrated into the storefront design will be reimbursed. Compliance. Checks will be performed on all applicants during the approval stage to ensure that they are complying with child support laws and not indebted to the city. Any scofflaw debt must be cured to participate in SBIF. The applicants can cure the debt via a city payment plan. Applicants using a payment plan must be in compliance with that to receive the SBIF reimbursement funds. All applicants must be current on property taxes to receive the conditional commitment for funding and the reimbursement for completed work. Each applicant must sign an economic disclosure affidavit. The grantees must sign an affidavit certifying that they will not relocate out of the TIF district or sell the business and or property within a 3-year period following the disbursement of funds. To be reimbursed, landlord applicants must have an executed lease with the qualified tenant, and that tenant must be occupying and actively operating their business or not-for-profit out of lease space. How do you apply? You can visit our websites. There are 2 websites. One is the chicago.gov/SBIF website. The other one is summercorps.com/SBIF. So there's 2 options here to submit your application. One is through the new online application via Submittable. You can visit the city's website to create an account and complete that application. TPD is offering the online application through Submittable. So if you have any questions with the new application platform, you can contact Gabadale Miranda, and you see her email address here. Or if you prefer, you can also download a PDF application, and you could submit that application via email to Summer Corps. Their main inbox is spiff@summercorps.com. What resources are available to help? You can visit the Summer Corps' website to access resources to support your SBIF project. You can also connect with your local delegate agency for assistance in filling out your application. So a few things that we have on their website here is SBIF locator tool to make sure that your property qualifies and is located in one of the TIF districts that we cover. SBIF program rules. We have a list of licensed contractors available to you. We have a list of SBIF lenders. These lenders are familiar with the SBIF program, and they have assisted small businesses with obtaining the upfront financing that is required to proceed with this project if you don't readily have those funds available. So we can actually sign a bank assignment where the proceeds of the grant go directly to the lender to pay off a portion of the loan, and the applicants will be responsible for paying off the remainder of their loan. You can also find the design guidelines here and additional resources for current applicants. Here we have the list of delegate agencies. You should definitely get to know them. These organizations are assigned to assist small businesses in the SBIF districts that are opening in May 2025. So here we have the TIF districts along with the delegate agency in your area so that you can contact them directly. And again, this list will be available to you via email, so please know that this information is coming your way. So for May 2025, here's a list of the open TIF districts. We are currently accepting applications through May 30th at 5 p.m. The districts that are open this month are 79th and 79th Street Corridor, 87th and Cottage Grove, Archer Western, Armitage and Pulaski, and Lincoln Avenue. Here we have a sample project. This project is located in the Lincoln Avenue TIF. This is Tel Aviv Slices Pizza. So here are a few pictures of before the renovations being completed. And this next slide will show the after pictures. Here are the after pictures once that construction renovation project was done. Here we have a summary of what was completed. They did some roofing repairs, new framing, insulation, drywall and doors, epoxy flooring, new ceilings, countertops, RP panels, and wainscoting. Electrical upgrades also included some light fixtures, outlets, switches, conduits, wiring, and smoke detectors. The plumbing work included new water lines, piping and connections, drains, vents, hot water heater, and fixtures. HVAC work included a new system with associated ductwork, trim work, and concrete trench patching. SBIF facts. What additional documents should you have on hand to submit along with the SBIF application? While it's not required when submitting the initial application form, please note that these items are required to complete the SBIF application process. The required documents vary depending on applicant type. So once we start processing the application, Summer Court will send you a list of items that are necessary based on your applicant type. So some of these items are provided via template to you to be completed and returned to us. And some of these items you would have to provide, such as the business tax returns, copies of your licenses, proof of ownership. You know, some of these things we have on hand as templates. Some of these items will need to be provided by you. So again, we'll give you that final list of what we need from you once we receive that application. Are startups or new businesses eligible? Yes, most startups can apply. Startup applicants will need to supply a detailed business plan and projections of the business's income and expenses for its first 36 months of operation as part of their application materials. The City of Chicago reserves the right to impose additional conditions for funding in connection with startup business applications. If you've only been in business for 1 to 2 years, Summer Corps requires tax returns and a projection of gross sales to equal 3 years of data. Am I eligible if I live outside of Chicago? The important consideration is where you have your business or your property. To participate in SBIF, your property must be in the City of Chicago, as the funding source comes from the City of Chicago property taxes. If your business or property is in another area, please call that city's planning, economic development, or community development department to see what other programs may be available to assist small businesses. What if your business has both what if your building has both business and residential spaces? This program is for business use, but there are mixed use exceptions. Many envelope projects such as roofing, facade improvements, and tuck pointing can be eligible. Can SBIF be used with other City of Chicago grant programs? The answer is no. SBIF cannot be used at the same time as other financial assistance programs like the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund or the Chicago Recovery Plan grants on the same project covering the same work. However, you may apply for multiple grants at the same time and select the best fit for your project. provided that you stay within the grant timeline requirements. Will there be enough SBIF funds for all applicants? Each TIF district that has a SBIF program authorized in it has limited funds reserved for the program. If the demand for SBIF funds is greater than the available funding supply, then a lottery will be conducted to determine the order in which each grant application may be accommodated. If any surplus funds become available, they will be allocated to waitlisted applicants. Is there SBIF funding available in my district? Every SBIF area has its own budget that the city refills if it has SIF funds available and if there's a demonstrated need for more grant money. We also maintain an interested party list for funds, which you can also send an email to spiff@summercourt.com to join. When more funding becomes available or the city allocates more funds, we will let you know. The interested parties list helps the city of Chicago gauge demand for additional funding. What if I am in a TIF and it is not a SBIF? Tax increment financing, known as TIF, is the mechanism that funds the SBIF program. So if you are in a TIF district and it does not have a SBIF, please contact your alderman. Again, thank you for joining us. Here we have contact information for the SBIF team. Nora Curry with the Department of Planning and Development. And here we have two websites with the SBIF detailed information. The Google Translate is available on the Chicago website. So please keep that in mind. The resources are available in other languages. A copy of the presentation and a link to a video will be emailed to all attendees. Now we can get started with our question and answer session.
Thank you, Sylvia. Once again, if you have any questions, since we're going into the Q&A, please ensure to place them within the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen. So typically, we would like to start off with some common challenges. Typically we start off with just some general questions as we wait to see if we receive any additional questions in our Q&A box. So Sylvia, just to start off, what are some common challenges that applicants face within this program?
So I would say one of the biggest challenges is obtaining the upfront financing. Since this is a reimbursement grant, applicants must be prepared to fully finance their project upfront. So that's, I would say, one of the biggest challenges, keeping in mind that, we have a list of lenders that are familiar with the program. So there are options for applicants to obtain loans. Some people that I know have used lines of credit, have used credit cards. We try to steer clear of credit card debt. However, it is an option. But that's one of the biggest challenges, finding upfront financing. So I do want everyone to keep in mind that there is the option for the bank assignments. So you can let the banks know that you're applying for this grant. You will be receiving reimbursements and they'd be more inclined to lend you the funds to get the project rolling. Another challenge would be finding contractors and architects if it's required for that scope of work. We require a minimum of 2 contractors' estimates, along with their City of Chicago business license and certificate of insurance. I always suggest that you try to obtain as many estimates as you can. That way you see the difference in the pricing. You sort of communicate with the contractors and get to see how knowledgeable they are of what they speak of and how communicative they are, if they're responsive and things like that. Ultimately, you get to decide who your contractor is. You get to pick that contractor as long as they're licensed and insured and their prices are within a reasonable range of each other.
Okay, great. So long as they are communicating with us, letting us know, being able to secure their financing for their project as well as finding a reputable contractor to complete their project, they should be fine. Um, Let's see, what else? We did have some questions before. Can you provide some insight if a business owner is trying to find funding resources for their business operation? Do you have any idea where those resources can be provided? Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Sure. So I always suggest to first start off with your bank. You've already established a relationship with them. You can let them know that you're participating in the SBIF program. We are more than happy to, speak directly to the lenders, let them know what the SBIF program is all about and answer any questions that they may have. So if that doesn't work out, you can always reach out to the lenders that are available on our website. I know some not-for-profits, other businesses have actually had fundraisers for raising money to complete the SBIF projects. Some people borrow money from family and friends, which is okay. The only thing is we would need to make sure that the applicant is actually paying for those renovations. So once we see that proof of payments, it must come from the actual applicant. Otherwise, we cannot reimburse the applicant for costs that they did not incur.
Okay, great. Thank you. We received this question. Someone was wondering what are the advantages or disadvantages to submitting a SPIF application as a property owner versus business owner? And if they're able
Well,
to choose if it overlaps between both.
okay, good question here. Now, they do not have the option to choose. So if they are both business and property owner, they would have to fall under that category. So there's various documents that fall that will be required under each category. So they do not have the option to apply, let's say, just as a tenant if they own the building as well. So they do have to fall under that both business and property owner category.
Okay, great. So if there is an overlap, then they definitely would have to just submit an application as both. But if they're
Correct.
just solely a property owner and solely a business owner, they would either have to check the property owner or tenant for the property.
That is correct.
Gotcha. Okay. So we received a question. Someone was asking why are TIF areas only open for 30-day period within a rollout calendar year?
So we have quite a few TIF districts. We're probably at about 80 TIF districts or so, probably even 90 plus. We have had quite a few TIF districts expire. However, we try to open up every TIF district at least within, I would say, maybe 6 to 18 months to make sure that we're rotating the TIF districts throughout the city of Chicago. So we have maybe on average probably 60 applications that we receive. We have a team of 5 project managers, so we try to open up every district as much as we possibly can, but we cannot open every TIP district all at once.
Okay, great. So usually the 30-day period is determined just so that we have enough timeframes for all of those applications, the districts to be open, giving them
Correct.
all a time frame to be open for people to take advantage of it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, if a person is unable to obtain site control within the acceptance period, can they have documentation to provide to us beforehand, or at what point would they need to reapply for eligibility if they're not able to obtain site control?
So during the open acceptance period, we would only require the application. However, if we move forward with that application, they would have to submit their proof of site control within 20 days, which is the stage 1, where they have to complete their application materials. So they have a little bit of time. However, if they're not able to secure either a lease or close on a property, then the application will be removed and they may have another opportunity to reapply. But that also depends on whether or not we have to create a wait list for this area and also taking into consideration whether or not the TIF is set to expire.
Okay, thank you. Another question. What role does the delegate agency play?
So the delegate agencies are assigned to assist small businesses in their areas, so they can assist with completing the applications, submitting the applications. I know some people are not very tech savvy, like to do things by paper, so if you need someone to help complete it electronically, submit it via email, they can do it that way. They can assist with that. They can also assist with helping submit it through the online version through Submittable, basically to help as a guide throughout the entire process if they need assistance with, contractors and getting their paperwork together once a project is done. If they, need assistance with gathering all of their payment documents, they can also assist with that as well.
And if I may, this is Nora. I want to point out that the delegate agencies are paid by the city to provide assistance to businesses. So those services are all free.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that information. Um, Someone was asking, can they fund their project with several credit cards? Like if the project is under, oh no, this is a two-part question. So the first question is, can they fund their project with several credit cards instead of obtaining like financing from a bank or any other alternatives?
So if they can use credit cards to basically fund the project, the answer is yes. They can use credit cards. However, we will need additional paperwork if that is the route they want to take. So basically, we would need credit card statements showing that transaction. We would need a register receipt along with that information. And as always, we would need the contractor's final waiver of lien to match that amount as well.
Okay, thank you. And then the second part of that question is, if their project is under 25,000, can they obtain one estimate instead of three? Or maybe they meant two, but I'm not sure if that meant multiple, if they need to submit multiple estimates for the project or if it's just one.
So regardless of the cost of the project, we require a minimum of two competitive bids along with the license and insurance from the contractors. And I do want to add that an applicant cannot act as their own general contractor.
Okay, thank you. So the next question we have here, do estimates from general contractors, do they have to be prevailing wages or do they, need to be associated with the prevailing wages?
No, that is not a requirement. Prevailing wage is not a requirement.
Okay, thank you. The next question, how soon do you know, when will you find out you'll be approved for the grant? And what if you're working with a lender and they approve you for the funds, but you're not approved for the grant? So I'm assuming if they get the financing approved first before they receive their approval, what would they need to do? And what's that
Well, they
time
would
frame?
just basically need to hold on to the funds until they get their official approval. We cannot allow anyone to make any deposits for anything prior to approval. Otherwise, it will not be eligible for reimbursement. So I would hold off on making any payments to the contractors. The only two things that can be paid before the approval is granted is permits, which are also reimbursable as long as the scope of work is SBIF eligible, and also architectural drawings if they are required. So architectural drawings and permits are the only two items that can be paid for that are SBIF reimbursable if they're related to the SBIF project. Otherwise, every payment that is made to the contractor would have to be either dated the date of approval or going forward. If it's made prior to approval, it will not be eligible for reimbursement.
So ultimately, they have to make sure that they receive that conditional commitment letter before making any payments to that contractor.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, no problem. The next question is, when does the work have to be done for any applicants that submit an application during this current acceptance period?
Well, it varies because we go through different stages. Sometimes extensions are granted. However, in general, the construction time frame that's granted is 10 months. So in stage two, we give you 4 months to obtain your contractor bids. So if you get us your bids in 1 month, we basically move at your pace. So there's no really definitive date as to when you'll get approved. But construction time frame is 10 months.
Okay, thank you. Someone just wants you to just clarify on what needs to be done if the applicant is both the owner and business owner of that property, as far as
So
how
the
they apply, I
application,
should say.
okay, so they should check off both boxes that pertain to small business owner and property and or landlord. So they would check both of those boxes if they're using the PDF version of it. Now, if there's an online version, they would select both options as property owner and business owner. And
Oh,
if there's a holding company involved, there's also questions related to that as well. So I think what happens in that case, you would just list the holding company, but the actual business name should be listed as the operating business.
okay, thank you. Um, Once an application is submitted, so we have the acceptance period open for 30 days. When can an applicant expect to receive a response from us once they submit their application?
Typically, they'll receive a response from us within 3 weeks after the acceptance period closes. We will need to determine if a lottery needs to be conducted. If so, the applicants will be invited to join that lottery. They are not required to attend. Either way, we will let them know what the results of the lottery actually mean for that specific application. So typically within 3 weeks after the closing acceptance period, they will hear from us as to whether we can fund their project and move forward, or if we will be conducting a lottery in their area.
Okay, great. So they'll get a confirmation that we received their application within the 30-day period, but they'll hear back from us within that 3-week period about the next steps of their application.
Correct.
Okay. Next question is, if my business location is in a process of rezoning from residential to commercial and have full support of the alderman, can they still apply for the SBIF program?
Unfortunately not. They can only apply for the SBIF program when that process has been completed until it's official.
Okay, thank you. Have the contractors on the list that we provide on our website, have they worked with SBIF before?
Some of the contractors have worked with SBIF before, yes.
Okay. Um, Another question is, to clarify, only the architectural plans can be paid for before approval. That will and can be approved for reimbursement once the the project is approved.
That is correct. The architectural drawings must be for a SBIF eligible project. And we only reimburse those architectural drawings once the SBIF project is completed. So we can't, give you the approval and then reimburse immediately for architectural drawings. That project must be complete first, and the architectural drawings, the cost of those can be included in the final disbursement.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Next question. Can a person seek finances with the resources you mentioned prior to being approved for the grant?
Yes, yes. So we provide various letters throughout the process. There's a stage 2 letter, which gives you detailed information pertaining to like the contractor's estimates and things like that. So that can be used as a resource. However, typically the official approval letter, which we refer to as the conditional commitment letter, that's more of a contract between you and the city that, as long as you meet the conditions, and stay within the requirements, time limits and things of that sort, that the city will disperse those funds. So I would, hold on to that approval letter, let that be somewhat as like a collateral to the banks.
Okay, thank you. And I think this is the last question. If you're in the process of purchasing a property through Cook County Land Bank, would you still be able to apply for the grant?
You can apply, however, if you do not close within the 20-day time frame that's granted, we cannot keep the application active.
Okay, no problem. So the important thing here is just making sure that the applicant does have site control within that requested time frame.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. I believe that's all of the questions we have for today. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly by email or by phone. This will conclude our SBIF rollout webinar. Thank you to everyone that attended today. And as a reminder, you will receive a copy of the presentation as well as a link to the video. We look forward to working with you through this process. Please ensure to get those applications submitted by the deadline date of May 30th by 5 p.m. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.